Salve, and welcome to Parsing John. Today we're in chapter 1, verse 41, nearing the end of this paragraph. Here's our rubric, everything that we're looking for as we go through and translate this. Let's go ahead and get started. Envenit hic primum fratrem suum Simonem, et dicit ei envenimus messeam quod est interpretatum Christus. And that's as far as we're going to go today. At the very beginning of verse 41, we find our verb, which is very nice. It's always good to find those things straight off the bat. We've got it here as our ending, which is a third person. It is singular. Enveneo, envenere, enveni. You can't really tell what tense this is since this is a fourth conjugation. So, it's either present or it is perfect tense. Sorry, my throat is still acting up. 1 second. My apologies again. This means, and it is active and indicative. Means he finds or found, depending on the tense. Hic could be either showing us location, meaning here as an adverb, or it could be from hic, haec, hoc. Since we don't have a subject stated explicitly, I'm going to treat this as hic, haec, hoc, which would mean this is nominative, singular, masculine, meaning this one finds or found. Primum could be an adjective and accusative, modifying fratrem suum Simonem, or it could be an adverb. Primum in Latin is a irregular word. It has, I think, 3 different adverbs. Primum and primo are the most common of the two, or of the 3, and each of them has a slightly different use. So that is also an option. If we were to treat this with these, well, I need to parse them first, sorry. M here is accusative, singular, masculine. This is the same thing, and this is the same thing. So they all 3 go together. Brother, his own Simon. It tells us we've got a new clause, especially since dicit here is a verb. So we could either translate this as, this one finds his own first brother Simon, or this one first finds his own brother Simon. Either way technically works, but I'm going to treat this as an adverb and mark that this could be accusative, singular, masculine. All right. Et means and. Dicit, since we have it here again, it is third person singular. Now, for this verb, we do actually know what tense it is, because it's dico, dicere, dixi. In the perfect tense, the C becomes an X. So this one is far more clear. It's active and indicative. He says, A comes from is ea id. Are demonstratives. To him. Quote, entering direct discourse right now. Dative, singular. Doesn't really have a gender since all 3 of the genders share the same form. Envenimus. Mus is first person, plural. And envenio, envenere, enveni. Same problem here. It's either present or perfect. Active and indicative. We find or found. Direct object. Messeam alpha. Not alpha. Still thinking Greek. Am is accusative, singular. This is going to be an unusual, or at least in classical Latin, it would have been unusual for us to find a first declension masculine. So there are, I think, 6 common ones and a few less common ones. So since this is pulled from Hebrew, makes a little bit more sense. And also since this is getting on towards Church Latin, masculine. Messiah. Quod est. So this is going to end the direct discourse. Which or because. Oops. Spilled that. Which. It could be nominative, singular, neuter, or it could be because. Est is by itself third person singular, present, active, indicative. But interpretatum is our fourth principal part of interpreto, interpretare, which then means these two paired together can become a perfect passive verb. But normally we would expect to find est after this. So it could still be two separate things. I'm going to treat it, however, in this instance primarily as the perfect passive. But I will also mark it as the other option. And then this would just be accusative singular neuter, or third singular neuter perfect passive indicative is interpreted or has been was interpreted. Those are three options for translating it. Now, this one actually down here sounds the best, but as I said, just for now, I'm going to treat it as that. The Greek, looking at the Greek text, will ultimately tell us which of the options makes most sense, unless the Greek itself is hard to determine. Let's move on. Christus. US there tells us nominative, singular, masculine as our ending, and this is just Christ. Period. And that is the end of verse 41. So in its internal context, we have, this one finds first his own brother Simon, and he says to him, we find, or have found, so it's better, have found Messiah, which, or because, it's going to be which, is interpreted, or has been interpreted, Christ. And there's verse 41. Let's take a look at it in its greater context from verse 35. On another day, meanwhile, John was standing, and two from his disciples, and looking back at Jesus as he was walking, he says, look, Lamb of God. And they heard him, the two disciples, saying, or speaking, and they followed Jesus. However, Jesus, having been turned and seeing them following him, he says to them, what are you seeking? Who said, or have said, to him, Rabbi, which is said, interpreted, teacher, where are you living? He says to them, come and see. They came and they saw where he was staying, and they remained at near him on that day. Hour, however, was just as 10th. He was, however, Andrew, brother of Simon Peter, one from the two who had heard from John and had been having followed him. That's crazy, crazy setup here. Verse 41. This one found, or finds, first his own brother Simon, and he says to him, we find, or we have found Messiah, which has been interpreted Christ. And there we go. That is all verse 41 from the Latin. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you learned something from this, and I hope you continue to join me in our final videos as we near the end of chapter 1. Again, thank you very much. Have a good day. Wale.